Hey, welcome back. I'm Yvonne Wakefield. This is my YouTube channel about my book series, Babe in the Woods 1, Building a Life One Log at a Time, which I'm reading from until we get to Babe in the Woods, Self-Portrait, which is the second in the series, and then Babe in the Woods, Path of Totality, which was just released. Actually, before I want to get into reading, I want to introduce you to somebody you might have seen before. This is Henry. He's 13 years old now, and tomorrow he's going to have his teeth cleaned. So this is kind of like a message to all you animal people out there. It's expensive, but you gotta get your dog's tartar off your teeth, because it makes heart disease. Even though he gets his teeth brushed twice a week, he still gets that tartar that could give him a little baby Yorkie heart attack, and we love you so much. You can't have that happen. And when Zachary's jealous, we'll see what happens here. But in the meantime, we'll figure out what these dogs are gonna do. Hi, Zach. And I'm going to get into chapter 11. So we were just at chapter 10, and I introduced you some, like, the most pivotal people in my experience of building the log cabin besides Jim. So I'm going to start out here now. Jim and I have fallen a bunch of trees, and now we have to figure out how we can get them up. Okay, you have to realize that it's still really snowy on the mountainside. You're crunching up to your kneecaps in snow. So, we fell a bunch of trees, and now I have to deal with them. Chapter 11, I am a wench. All the limbing and draw knifing, hiking up and down the mountain with supplies and tools has chiseled me to sinew. I get cut and bruised, ache all the time from work. I'm still learning. In the last week of May, Jim added winch to this never-ending crash course, testing my bones to the marrow. Got a wench, he points to me, but she won't do. We need a winch to get at those trees. Jim nods down at a cross-hatching of freshly limbed and skimmed trees ready to be hauled up a 200 feet slope embankment that is shady as his humor. He didn't own one, and my How to Build a Log Cabin book hadn't even mentioned a winch in the section on tools. In fact, there was no mention at all on how to move heavy logs around or up into walls. On the way back from town the next day, a new red wheelbarrow sticking out of the back of the gremlin, I stopped to visit the Nelsons. Remember, those were the Mormons in the red cabin? Excuse me, I have to stop 1 second because Zachary's having, no, we'll keep this going. Zachary's having an issue. Get up. Zachary wanted to have a little intention time here. Honey, we're live on the air. Do you have anything you want to say? Henry's getting his teeth cleaned tomorrow, and you're not. Excuse me, but he can have breakfast in the morning. No, you can have breakfast in the morning, but he cannot. Remember that. Sorry, guys. It's this thing I have to do. You know, kids, dogs. What do you do? All right, so like, there was nothing in this log cabin book on how to build or how to haul up these logs. So anyway, on the way back from town the next day, a new red wheelbarrow sticking out of the back of the gremlin. Remember the American Motors green car I had? I stopped to visit the Nelsons. Glenn is mending the barbed wire around the roadside sheep pasture. In the course of small talks, I brag on my Echo. Remember, Echo is my chainsaw. That's how I got this here. Glenn pushes a finger into his diagonal crease above his left eye. Was a still is another brand of chainsaw. Was a still, got a kickback. Then he rolls up a sleeve to reveal a forearm with horizontal scar. Got this one when I was bucking fence posts. He rubs his thumb over the mark. Bar pinched and then kicked back too. His hand vibrates like the saw that has damaged his nerves to the end as he fumbles the snap on his sleeve. Luckily, there were other guys in the woods and Rhonda was to help me out cutting posts. Otherwise, it's likely I wouldn't be here fixing this fence today. He twists barbs with fencing pliers, gives me a fatherly look I am not familiar with, and says, "You be real careful with that saw. You hear?" Along with his genuine concern, Glenn also sends me up the mountain with a hand winch after I tell him about the trees lying below the bank that need to be hauled up to the building site. You can borrow it till you're done. Just spike it down to a tree stump and crank. He demonstrates by flipping a gear and turning the handle of the tool he set on a workbench in a shed built off the chicken coop where I have followed him. There's 250 feet of cable wound up there. Be careful with that saw now, you hear? He repeats as I stagger towards the gremlin, cradling a 60-pound winch. At the judge's meadow, I unload the shiny new $40 wheelbarrow, not yet aware it was $10 cheaper at the other hardware store in town. I fill it with groceries and the winch and push it up the mountain. The sky is blue slate, burnished by pre-solstice sun, t-shirt weather. Wildflowers spiral up from the warming soil. A goshawk zigzags between ponderosa stands. The wheelbarrow feels like the Rock of Gibraltar as I strain to push it up the eliminator. At the first level on this ruddy incline, I stop to catch my breath. Chipmunks weave about in puffy dust as they dart across the road, and 3 mule-tail deer cross the upper meadow, prancing in greasewood. I kneel by a spring, scoop up water, and drink in all around me. I think, man, look how far I've come. In less than 2 months, I've learned how to kindle fire where there was cold, how not to fell a tree, and how much I've yet to learn after shaking out corners. From this perspective, I scare down on the judge's meadow in time to see an antelope herd, perhaps startled by deer, ease from the tree line. They arch faraway necks and nibble bright green shoots. I hold my breath at this amazing sight and twist out a teeny woodpeck skewered behind my ear that I am so surprised to find on such a fine day. Jim comes the next morning and hammers in 4 spikes to secure the winch into a level stump. He clambers down the steep bank and, cable in hand, cinches a steel choker around the butt of a log and yells, "Winch! Winch!" I ratchet away, drawing upon every minuscule of muscle that has never been called into duty. Enlisting strength straight down into my toenails, I feel something in me is going to snap or burst, a rib bone, brain vein, or will, as I winch. Jim cuts away slush, nudges the butt with the peavey. I push and pull the winch handle and the log inches up the bank. By the end of the day, we have 16 logs decked below the building site. By the end of the week, we've piled up enough logs to start building. The sun is out, and like Jim, I work without a shirt, bareback, but only when he's not around. Skin burns red around black patches of pitch smeared on my breasts, arms, and shoulders. My right hand still hurts to clench. A fist, my brow, my sticks, everything is covered with pitch. Every ounce of me worn and sore, but I feel better than I've ever felt before. This color of health and optimism is Barbie doll bright, maybe with a little bit of Pollyanna mixed in there too. But after work that day, Jim, as usual, walks down the road with me, and we part at the narrow bend of the road. He adjusts the strap on his day pack. Got some kids coming, so I won't be back for at least a few days. Don't. When he said kids, it wasn't like human kids, he meant goat kids. Don't try working that winch without me, he says, before going up and over one hill. I clamber down another. By the time I reach the old cabin, I am too achy and tired to eat, and I just get in my bag and shiver myself to sleep. For the first time since moving to this cabin, I sleep past dawn, not able to outslumber the aches and chills, which has left me exhausted and weak. I stay in the sleeping bag and have no desire to move except to scratch whatever itches above my feet. By mid-morning, I know if I don't get up and get myself down the mountain soon, rats will soon be enjoying a field day on my skin and then bones. The day promises to be a hot one. Still, I shiver in my winter parka and must rest every few minutes on the ground that is fervently trying to claim me. It takes me over an hour to walk to my car, a distance I normally bound in less than a quarter of that time. For reasons unknown, my dilapidated gremlin won't turn over. My options are dying on the spot with a dead engine or continuing on. 2 miles down the road, the little red cabin is my only option. Good Lord! Rhonda answers the door. She takes my hand and leads me into the living room. Sit down! She places a hand on my forehead and says loud to her daughter so she can hear, Helen, get the thermometer. Sitting on the couch is a relief I doubted I'd find during that long hike down. I lean back, close my eyes until Rhonda says, open. She puts a thermometer in my mouth and leaves, then returns with a dish towel filled with ice and gently presses it on my forehead. Lie down now. I do, and she stands over me, readjusts the ice pack, removes the thermometer, and then leaves and goes to make a phone call. She's been working in the woods. Temperature's 104. I got ice on her head, is all I hear. Too ill to feel silly splayed out on a stranger's couch I have no impetus to remove myself from. Take us about 20 minutes to get there. Rhonda hangs up and yells, Helen, go find the boys. Truck or car? Car. Your dad's out with the boys, remember? I hear some jiggling in the pantry, and then Helen yells back, got him, Mom. Rhonda and Helen support me by the elbows and lead me outside past the garden that will never be fenced to their car. They ease me inside it. Oh, Lord, 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 oh, Lord, Rhonda exclaims as she opens the driver's door. Seems like a funny time to pray with me dying in the back seat. Jimmy, she yells. Jimmy runs from behind the barn where he has been doing what every teenage boys do behind barns on a Saturday afternoon when their older brother and father have taken the truck to do other chores. He stares down at the flat left tire. Get the jack out of the back, Rhonda commands. Jimmy can't locate the jack, which should be in the trunk next to the spare tire, but it is not. I persuade Rhonda that I am well enough to walk to the county road and from there hitchhike to the hospital. Her protests do not stop me, and I stagger away, weak and more delirious than usual. By the time I am down their dirt driveway, I see spots before my eyes, red ones propagating upwards from my ankle. But the time I've reached the gravel county road, I must sit down every few minutes to scratch and to marvel at this shimmering mirage just always out of reach. The horizon waves. Turkey vultures circle overhead, and a lone golden eagle gives me the bird's eye and flies east. No matter how far I walk, the horizon shifts in and out of focus, dead ahead, never getting any closer. I shuffle along, the sun forging into my pounding bare head. So hot I shake with cold, I bend over and search the roadside ditch for a pebble smooth enough to suck for spit. Twisted, mummified, and rotting deer and coyote carcasses are spared at tragically random lengths within this gully I kind of topple into very so often. I'm searching for the smooth, perfect pebble, which, like the horizon, is always out of reach. Snuffed out by a head-on, maybe buckshot, these mangled animals sleep on forever in this roadside graveyard, a slumber I'm willing at this point to enter without a fight. I sink to my knees, then collapse in the gravel and prepare to join my kindred spirits. I bow my head between my knees, the earth rumbles, and the darkness surrounds me. Lord! Oh, good Lord! An angel appears in my shadow of death. Helen! Rhonda screams. Help me get her out of there. At the hospital, I am relieved Marlboro Marcus Welbus, MBD, is not on call because he might prescribe a welcome mat along with an IV drip. Blood is drawn, tissue scraped from the rash spreading up from my ankles. It is cool in the hospital. I am cared for. Medicine and cortisone salve keep me comfortable. I close my eyes like those animals in the ditch. 3 hours after they dropped me off at the hospital, Rhonda and Helen return from an afternoon of town errands that include 2 sacks of chicken feed and a new jack. Rhonda stands beside me as I sit on the examining table in the emergency room. I am the first to answer before the doctor can ask. She is not my mother. We're neighbors, explains Rhonda. We'll make sure she drinks lots of water and rests. The no-nonsense middle-aged doctor looks at Rhonda and then back at me. And stay out of the sun. Most likely what you've got is Rocky Mountain spotted fever. The doctor hands me a tube of cream, a prescription for antibiotics, and advice. This is nothing to fool around with. I'm no fool. Since I don't have medical insurance to cover the 2 days he would like me to stay in the hospital, I take his advice. The chicken feed sacks keep me upright as I wait in the car for Rhonda to fill the prescription. Back at her house, she feeds me canned peaches, ice water, and then makes me lie down on the couch again, a welcome position in my weakened condition, even though I protest. When one is sick, one needs to be taken care of. Rhonda does not touch my fevered brow, and I bite back tears because her mothering makes me want to cry about the mothering I lost and will never find again. I close my eyes and listen to her bustle about in the kitchen, preparing her family lunch, served well later than usual. Go wash up before we eat, Rhonda says as the door slams behind Jimmy. I also hear a metal crash outside the pantry door. Never lifted anything so heavy in my life. I thought I was going to bust a gut, Jimmy says. You put that new jack where you could find it so you won't have to be lifting up the back of the car to change a flat tire next time, Rhonda scolds. Their cabin already overcrowded, I declined Rhonda's insistent invitation to stay the night. Staying even an hour longer in this close proximity to a loving family would only make me feel acutely lonely. Being alone, sick as I was, felt more within my comfort zone. All 5 kids sit on the back of the flatbed. I am snug in the cab between Glenn and Rhonda. You can figure it out, Glenn says to his 2 oldest boys as they look at the gremlin. His 4-wheel rig is able to scale the eliminator, shit and slide, ford the creek, and drive me straight to the old log cabin. Glenn brought his steel along. Without a word, he saws down some nearby snags, bucks them to length. One of the younger 2 of the boys split and then make a great supply of needed firewood. Rhonda and her other kids draw buckets of water from the creek, get a fire going in the stove, even though it's afternoon and sunny outside. It takes all my strength just to sit wrapped in a down sleeping bag watching them work. Rhonda puts 3 jars of peaches on the counter. We'll be back to check you tomorrow. Late in the afternoon for the next 3 days, one of the Nelsons arrives on horseback to deliver fresh eggs, milk, more peaches, or whatever. Rhonda has packed. Before leaving, they will split wood and stack more wood by the stove and make sure all the water buckets are filled. In a few days, my strength starts to return. Although I'm still really weak and glad Jim is preoccupied with baby goats so he can't see how his boss got taken down by a tiny tick. All right, well, that was chapter 11. That was kind of a sick time in my life. It wasn't Lyme disease. It was Rocky Mountain spotted tick fever. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you next time for chapter 12, I believe. Henry went over to drink some water, but here's Zachary. Here's Zachary, wake up. He's just gonna go hang out with me at the vet's tomorrow. Hi, Zachary. While Henry gets his teeth checked out. But anyway, remember to watch my YouTube channel. You can also check me out on Yvonne Pepin-Wakefield.com. I have this really great webpage with all my artwork and everything. And I always have to end these presentations with stay hydrated. Bye-bye. See you next week.